Hello everyone, I hope you're doing very well during this hard and difficult time. You're all staying aside and staying very safe. As you may have noticed, there are no slides on your screen right now. They are either linked below or linked back where you found the original YouTube video. That way you can follow along if you want, or if you don't want to, you can just listen to me talk. So today we're going to be talking about euthanasia for psychological suffering. So my personal interest is, first off, I'm a nursing major. And as a nursing major in the future, I'm going to be faced with the topic of euthanasia at one point or another, either by a patient or by a family member of the patient. And so it's important for me to think about. And I know there are also a lot of other nursing majors in this classroom, so I thought it would be a very interesting topic to talk about. Another thing is that I watched this YouTube documentary a few years back on the topic, and I thought it was very interesting. It's linked on the slides if you want to watch it. I included it, and I just thought that it might be interesting for you guys to watch. So first off, we're going to do an overview with definitions and stuff like that. First off, what is euthanasia? As defined by the dictionary, is the painless killing of a patient suffering from an incurable, painful disease or an irreversible coma. Next up, what are the two types? Legally, there are more than two types. For the purpose of the speech, there are going to be two. The first is physical euthanasia, which is euthanasia for a physical suffering related to a physical ailment or disease, most commonly terminal cancer, coma, or paralysis. Next is psychiatric euthanasia, euthanasia for psychological suffering related to mental disease or disorder, most commonly for prolonged grief, chronic depression, or psychosis. In this presentation, I'm only going to be talking about the psychiatric one, not the physical one. The physical one is a completely different debate, and that's not what we're talking about today. Moving on, what is psychological suffering? Well, psychological pain, mental pain, or emotional pain is an unpleasant feeling of psychological non-physical origin. It's also called algopsychalia, and that's the main basis of why people get psychiatric euthanasia, is for psychological suffering. So what are the euthanasia laws around the world? Well, as of 2019, 8 countries have legal physical euthanasia. Those include Switzerland, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Colombia, Canada, United States, and Australia. The United States is only some states. I have a demographic on the screen if you're following along that shows in dark blue which states have legalized euthanasia for physical origin. 2 countries around the world have legalized psychiatric euthanasia. Those include the Netherlands and Belgium. They are the only 2 out of 197, but once one country or 2 countries has done something, many others follow, which makes it relevant in today's world, as since those 2 have legalized it, soon other European countries or other Western countries probably will soon as well. So that leads us to the debate. Should psychiatric euthanasia be allowed in today's world? And in my opinion, no. Psychiatric euthanasia should not be allowed. I have a few reasons, of which I'm going to show you and present evidence, and my goal is to try and convince you to question your beliefs, because I know this is a very controversial topic with very strong held beliefs, and I don't want it to feel like I'm attacking you. Instead, I want it to feel like I'm questioning you. I want you to think about your own opinions, why you have them, and maybe why evidence I showed today might sway your opinion. So that gets into it. First off, we're going to be talking about informed consent. So what's informed consent? Informed consent is permission granted in the knowledge of possible consequences, typically that is which given by a patient to a doctor for treatment with full knowledge of the possible risks and benefits. This is by the dictionary. It's long and wordy, but essentially it's a rational and informed choice for a patient to allow something to be done to them. So what's the problem with it? Well, this is literally a life-ending procedure. You can't go back from it. Euthanasia will kill you. And a study by JMA, which looked into who was approved for euthanasia in one of the 2 countries that euthanasia for psychiatric reasons is approved for, found that most had chronic severe conditions with history of attempted suicides and psychiatric hospitalizations, and many others had the symptom of psychosis. That leads to the question, can a suicidal person or a person with psychosis rationally choose to end their life? For the suicide person, for the person who has suicidal thoughts, I don't think it's possible, because if they're already thinking about attempting suicide, or if they've already attempted suicide in the past, or they're currently thinking about it, they cannot make a rational decision to let a physician end their life, because the suicidal thoughts in their head are going to alter how they view the situation. And with a procedure that's life-ending, I don't think a suicidal person can make a rational, informed choice on the topic. Next up, a person with psychosis. Psychosis, for those of you who don't know, is essentially a break from reality. person during a psychotic episode cannot tell what is real from what's not. They have hallucinations and delusions about everyday reality. So a person with psychosis, how can they make an informed choice about such a big procedure if when going through a psychotic episode, they can't even tell what's real or what's not? It's a sad disorder, but unfortunately, I don't think they can make an informed, rational choice about such a procedure if they have this symptom. Next up, medications. Psychiatric medications, as found by a study by NIMH, can be highly effective, but they're also highly individual and usually needing 1 or 2 tries to find the right one. But with the right one, symptoms greatly improve and quality of life is increased. As a picture on the screen shows, if you're following along, it shows all the different types of antidepressant medications. There are more than 1, more than 2, there are 5 on the screen right there, which shows just how many a patient might have to try before they find the right one, but there will be a right one that can improve quality of life and improve symptoms. And that's troubling when you look at the JAMA study that found that 56% of the people euthanized refused treatment offered to them prior to being euthanized. And that leads you to the question, should a person be euthanized without trying to ease symptoms and improve condition? With the knowledge that psychiatric medication can greatly improve a patient's quality of life and symptoms, with them refusing medication, should they be euthanized? I don't think so, because when you think about physical euthanasia, usually it comes along with a terminal diagnosis. And with a terminal diagnosis, you have literally tried everything, but the disease has become terminal, it will kill them, there's nothing more you can do. So why with psychiatric medication should you not have to do everything you can do for the patient? I don't think it's fair to the patient necessarily, because there's a chance to improve their quality of life, and I also don't think it's fair on the physician to be in a situation where they can end a person's life without trying literally everything they can to make the person better. That leads me to my final point, which is the lack of a terminal diagnosis. This is the biggest thing when talking about euthanasia laws, specifically psychiatric euthanasia laws. And it comes down to the fact that euthanasia is usually only approved for terminal illness, and psychological suffering isn't terminal, and there is a chance for recovery. And by recovery, I don't mean that the psychiatric illness will go away. I mean that symptoms will be eased and quality of life can be improved through medications that I mentioned earlier. Another troubling thing is that it's also approved for blindness, deafness, autism, and chronic fatigue. Which I found troubling because with those disorders, it's not the same as chronic depression or PTSD or prolonged grief or psychosis. They're different. A person is born with them, and it just seems a bit unsettling to me that someone can be approved for euthanasia for having one of those 3 disorders. So that leads to the question, is it okay to end a life that would not have already ended by illness? I don't think it is. I think it comes down to doing everything you can for a patient before euthanizing them. Doing everything you can to improve their quality of life. Doing everything you can to improve their symptoms. Doing everything you can to give them a happy life before you euthanize them. That's what's done in physical euthanasia. In physical euthanasia, a person is usually given a terminal diagnosis. There is nothing more we can do for that patient. Then a person can be euthanized. Why in psychiatric euthanasia can a person be euthanized without doing everything you can to improve their quality of life? In 56% of cases, there was a chance for a treatment that could have eased their symptoms, could have made them better. That treatment was refused and can be refused with still being able to give the patient euthanasia. I don't think it's okay, but like I said earlier, it's allowed in the Netherlands and Belgium, and that is pretty concerning to me. And that leads me to the question I'm going to leave you all with, the question that I think everyone should think about in terms of psychiatric euthanasia, with listening to all the research, with thinking about suicidal thoughts and actions, psychosis, medications, terminal illness, all that. And that question is, where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line on when it's okay to end a patient's life prior to when they would have already died? I draw the line a terminal illness. Other people draw lines elsewhere, but I hope that my presentation has got you to question where you might think the line should be drawn. And so I just wanted to leave you with that. On the next slide, there are my references if you're following along, and then my picture citations. I hope you're all doing well, and please, please, please stay safe. Thank you.